I'm on a journey. So my journey is one of sort of self exploration in a way. I've been intrigued by a lot of podcasts that I've been watching myself, with London Real and Lewis Howes and Joe Rogan and Impact Theory. I've been watching all those guys. And so what I'm trying to do for my listeners is to help them to be a better version of themselves, and also to be confident about who they could be in the future. So when it comes to being somebody of influence, so this is what I want to tackle right now, which is listening. Because sometimes we think we always got to speak and speak to inspire and talk so that people can listen to, so they can hear us. But what is it about listening? So I've been listening to you for a while, and I'm gaining a lot of information. But what could we do as listeners in a conversation that would also help us to influence people to say, hey, this guy is a good guy, even without saying words. This guy is somebody who's influential.
Well, a couple of listening techniques just jotted down here earlier this week that's important is also just about knowing that the person is listening. So sometimes when you're talking to someone, they're listening. If they're doing something like vocal or verbal signals, like, aha, oh yes, really, or nodding their head. I always say put digital devices away. So if you're influential and you know that you're making an impact to your audience, not a lot of people will be on their phones. And you are allowed to, as the speaker, to ask everyone to put their phones away. It's okay. I often say it. I mean, I've biggest group I've ever taught was about 400 students. And, at UKSDN, they've got this new thing where every student has a laptop. And I just say to everyone, I just want to say that being a professional climate, please could you just put your laptops away? And then once I'm finished, you can open them up again. I think it's very important information. You don't need your digital devices. You might find one or two people might have to take a call, which is urgent, which is okay. But if you can address it in the beginning, you're going to help with problems later on. So I always say put all digital devices away. Use your posture inclined towards another person. So what happens is my body posture is right now to the computer, to you. I'm talking to you. But if I just had to swivel my body posture just over here, so you can see my shoulders are posturing towards, obviously you can't see the door, but if I had to talk to you like this, I can turn my head, but you will know that I'm not really listening because my posture's inclining towards somewhere else. Which we always say, don't let architecture structure your body. If a chair is stuck or even a podium stuck, you can still move around on stage. There's nothing wrong with a short walk, to get your audience's attention. I have a lot of clients who have podiums at the city halls who are stuck on the stage. And I say, there's nothing wrong with walking forward, backwards. Don't get stuck behind the podium or the microphone. Sometimes, even if your audience, if they're quiet enough, you can talk without a microphone. It's all about vocal projection. Or try get a handheld microphone, or try walk through with a microphone on a cord. But make sure your posture's always in. We call it sometimes the performer's V. So everyone is in your V. Okay, so obviously I can't do a video there, but make sure your audience is in your V, that no one's behind you, your posture's inclining towards everyone, and that you can be open and talk to them. Because a simple thing like a square, if you have a boardroom and no one's in your performance V, then someone is going to feel left out and then they won't be listening. Another one I said is use open arms and hands to show that you're listening. If you're pointing at people, people will start feeling a bit destructive, like, she's singling people out. Also, if you have your hands closed or you like this, a lot of people do this, which shows sincerity, but at the same time it is closed. So, people are listening. Also, when you mirror their body language, if they're open, they're like, yeah, no, I agree with you. Then they're listening. I always say make sure your back is always straight, your shoulders are composed. This just shows you're awake and listening. There's nothing worse than talking to an audience like this.
Slouched in their chairs.
because they're going to fall asleep. So always say everyone, often with some presentations, especially if I'm presenting towards the end of the day and people have been sitting in 6 and 7 hours of meetings, I say to everyone stand up, take a deep breath in, breathe out, and sit down. And then they're like, oh, well, that was refreshing. And that was a couple of seconds and their backs are straight. They're listening again. So sometimes you physically have to put them in that element. Nodding your head, using vocal or verbal signals like aha or yes, rarely. And then also ask for clarification. So I often use this with my clients, and I think it's so important. When you're talking to someone, I say get your fingers out on your hands and you picture it as what, when, how, where, who, and sorry, there's also why. So we always say what happened. So when you're talking to someone and they overexpress an emotion or they're rushing, you say, okay, can you tell me what actually happened? And then you move on to when did it happen? Time, what part of the week, the day, whatever. Then you say, when did it happen? And then you say, how did it happen? Okay. Where? Who was there? And do you know why it happened? And with those simplistic things, already they know that you're listening because you're asking for specifics. So you're reverting back questions to them. And that really helps with listening skills.
There's a steep rise in podcasting. I think it's because people, they want to listen more to, maybe they want to learn more. I don't know. Is there more of an appetite for education? I'm not too sure. Maybe there is. Because for me personally, I'm starting to listen to more podcasts. Like, I want to learn more. I want to become a better version of myself. I want to transform. I want to be on this journey of bettering myself. And so there's this rise in podcasting. And with the rise in podcasting, people need to talk and people need to listen, right? So this kind of, it's important then that if you're going to be a speaker, that they take on some of this advice that you've been into. So what would you recommend? You've given us a lot of recommendations already today, but are there some resources out there? What could people do as a next step, to take their communications to the next level?
There are a lot of free resources on Google. So there are also different vocal coaches in the world. And there's all different types of training companies that you could join. You could also always follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. There's a lot of places like the New York Business Insider, the London Insider. They talk about communication skills because if we look at soft skills, everyone used to call them soft skills. So people thought, it was to be more softer. So they've branded as communication skills, which is much more better, which is all to do with listening to speaking and reading and writing and all these types of things that you need. But I think the most important is being aware of how you speak. And I think if anyone wants to do a podcast or any type of audio or going to speak in front of people, you need to go home tonight, take one page of a book, choose a random page, number 72, and read it out loud and record it on your phone. And after that, listen to it. And if the first thing that comes to your head is, oh, my voice sounds horrible, then you need to work on it. Because you don't have a relationship with your voice. We're born with a voice and we die with a voice. But a lot of people end up not knowing how they sound. So you need to build a relationship with your voice. And that's what I do as a vocal coach, is often train people, but you can do it yourself. And through that, you need to start recording every week how you sound. So you can start to hear if there's improvements. The most important factors I look at is pace, modulation, as you know, is prosody, breathing, and emphasis. So really looking at the pace of your voice, notice that most influential speakers use pace. If you on a podcast and for 2 minutes in you're hearing, welcome today, and as we go through here, we're going to run, la 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 la. That's all you hear. You'll switch it off. So look at your pace. You don't always have to stop at the full stop or the commas. You can choose pace whenever. There's a difference between written and spoken language, like written and spoken English. So maybe after every 2 or 3 words, you might pace yourself, So hello, everyone.
Changing the pace.
Yes, changing the pace. So you create your own pace. So you might have a sentence, for example, that will have no commas and only a full stop. Hello, today we're going to talk about the world. Okay, so there's no commas, just a full stop. Now, if you had to talk that on one breath with no pace, it would sound like this. Hello, we're going to talk about the world. Okay, so maybe for my example, I'll say, hello. Today we're going to talk about the world. So I've already added in 2 pacing lines. You, however, might do it differently. You might say, hello, today we're going to talk about the world. So you've got to figure out your pace, but pace is so important with speaking. You obviously don't want to be too monotonous with pace, like saying, today we are going to participate in, obviously those are the politicians because they've been taught about pace, but they do it incorrectly because they're not practicing it. So you really have to figure out where does your pace come into. And the next would be then like the modulation, the prosody. So looking at how you say words, are you going to be influential? Or are you just going to speak on one tone all the time? Because if you have good pace, but you are speaking very low, you might find that your audience will doze off. So you've also got to find out where in your speech. So if you're talking for 20 minutes, and you really want to look at the fact that you want to sell something or you want to talk about the importance, you've got to find out when can you re-invite your audience to feel enthusiastic about what you have to say. For example, a song. You get the chorus of the song. That's the part when everyone goes mad. They love the chorus, You've got to find a part of it of your speech that has a chorus. If we had to take like the song Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, the whole Bohemian Rhapsody doesn't really have a chorus. But it continually goes up and down and up and down and up and down. But everyone knows that the most amazing part is the opera. Galileo, 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 Figaro, and that guitar solo at the end. So obviously they emphasized to that point. But if Queen took the Galileo and the guitar solo by Brian May and put it in the beginning of the song, it wouldn't have the same impact.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at your speech like Bohemian Rhapsody. Which part of it do you want to emphasize? How are you going to emphasize it? Through pitch, through influence? You might play a song. You might even stop for a pause. It's really important. And with those things, you're going to look at inflection, asking your audience questions. And one thing you should do is ask your audience questions. You shouldn't lecture.
Okay.
When I was working at UKZN, I found that every time I did workshops or lectures, you've got to influence your students to keep awake. And the way you do that is with questions. Ask people questions. Don't always state the facts. Say to them, how many of you got 8 hours of sleep last night? Did you get to sleep last night, or did you suffer from insomnia? But if you have to state that many people don't get to sleep at night, they suffer from insomnia. It's completely different when you turn it into a question because you're personalizing your audience. So they want to listen. And then I forgot what other elements I was talking about. But mainly modulation, asking questions, and pace is the most important part when it comes to speech. And really also in being enthusiastic.
Yeah, you got to love your topic, don't you? Yeah.
We've got to have more fun as people. We know we're so boring all the time. And then we have this Instagram post and we go and quote this amazing quote. I say every day should be enthusiastic. Like Leo Buscaglia, who I completely loved. And I mean, if you watch his video online, it's called Only You Can Make the Difference. And it's on YouTube, but it was recorded many years ago. And he was saying that he would love to greet people on campus. He was the type of person that would go, hello. And he sometimes would get strange responses from people. And they would say, do I know you? And he says, no, but wouldn't it be fun? And then the person said, no, it wouldn't. So he'd walk off. And then he said the next day he would go along the campus and say, hello. And the person would say, do I know you? He said, yes, we met yesterday. So the whole element of it is just being fun again. You never know when that person comes back into your life, that audience member. They could end up being your next boss. your next partner in work, maybe your family ends up marrying them. But the amazing thing about people is that we need to keep connected and we need to be enthusiastic. And if you're enthusiastic in your podcasts, you will find that people will listen to you. And also start to assess people that you listen to. On podcasts, there might be a certain people you want to listen to more. If we look at political figures, like Barack Obama in the USA, had a very soft, comforting voice. Donald Trump, he has a very loud voice. Some people like it. Some people like Barack Obama. We may never know. But when you listen to your podcast, think of the people you currently listen to and assess their voice.
Yeah.
Not to be a copy of their voice, but look at the elements. Do they talk loud or soft? Are they enthusiastic or boring? Do they use high pitch? Do they use low pitch?
Low pitch. Yeah.
Where do they speak from their resonant passages, and what do they have to say? Also look at the words they use. Are they simplistic words? Are they academic words? Maybe they repeat words throughout. And those elements apply to your own podcast, and to see how you talk and how you can inspire others around you.
Tamara, it's really been great talking to you, and I'm really going to take on board some of this advice that you've given. And hopefully improve the podcast. Yes. It's been really good.
That's great. I'm so glad I can help you inspire. And I love to inspire people everywhere to realize that you don't need a lot. You just need your voice to inspire. And so many people, we have a lot of like noise around us. A lot of the time we have audio clips, or we have pictures, and we have things flashing. But the most phenomenal people, if you think about it in your life, a talk you've gone to, people you've listened to, they didn't have all that noise. It was just themselves. And that's the phenomenal part about life. I think one of my most amazing performances, I've watched many people across the world, and I've watched U2 live, Coldplay live, Foo Fighters live. And if I look at U2, Coldplay, and Foo Fighters, who happen to be my favorite bands, and I've watched live, and I've also watched Elton John and Mariah Carey. I've watched performances like Cats, all sorts of things. But within U2, Coldplay, and Foo Fighters, the lead singers, Bono, Chris Martin, and Dave Grohl, the most important part of the concert is when they get personal with the audience.
Wow, yeah.
When they sit on the edge of the stage with the guitar, or they just sing with the audience. And that doesn't cost a lot. There's no noise, there's no extra lights. They normally black down the stage. And people love that because they they actually know their audience. And I think sometimes we need to take that sort of performance act and apply it with our audience. Be more personal, be open, but also be happy and enthusiastic.
It's great advice. Great. Tomorrow's been really, really good having you.
Yes, I'm so grateful. And yes, if you ever need to contact me,
yes.
You know where to contact me from. And I think it will be great if when I come through next year, we need to meet up. I just want to finalize my flying dates, and then I'll let you know where I'll be running around. And we can definitely collaborate or do something. And I wish you well on your journey with podcasts. I will be listening more tentatively. I haven't had time to go through it, but that would be great, and well done for inspiring people. I think you're on a great track. I see you've interviewed quite a few people so far, and I'm glad I got into the beginning phase with you, because just now Clint will be up there in the big podcast world.
Well, no, I'll never forget. So how can people get hold of you? What's your handle at Instagram? Just give us one of them, and then
my handle on Instagram is very simple. It's at Tamara, Tamara, Nicola, Nicola, Wentzel, Wentzel. That is the handle, Tamara Nicola Wentzel.
I'll put it on the screen as well.
Thank you. It's the same for LinkedIn as well, because I'm quite active with LinkedIn. And you can get hold of me. You can follow me on my journeys. I always upload wherever I'm traveling to. It could be just a cup of tea or zebra in the background, wherever it is. I like to make it fun and interactive. Okay.
Great. Thanks, Tamara.
Well, thank you so much, Clint. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, bye.